All right, let's talk about the upcoming tariffs and the upcoming Liberation Day, which we will most likely be doing a video on that and what the full details of all these tariffs will be. Oh man, if you need to buy stuff, I'd buy it now because things are probably going to get a bit more expensive. So, Trump aide says tariffs will raise 6 trillion, which would be the largest tax hike in US history. White House aide Peter Navarro said Sunday that he expects President Donald Trump's tariffs to bring in 6 trillion in revenue in the next decade, which could amount to the largest tax hike in US history. Who do you think that tax hike is going to be on? Who do you think is going to be paying the brunt of those taxes? Yeah, it's going to be the average American consumer, like you or me. So how much, and all this for a measly tax cut, while the top 1% get unimaginable amounts, and you just get crumbs. And actually, in the end, you're going to be paying probably more on these tariff prices than you. Oh, God. Even when adjusting for inflation, the amount would be triple the tax increase put in place in 1942 to pay the cost of fighting World War II. Navarro, Trump's senior counselor for trade and manufacturing, insists it's not a tax increase, but a tax cut. Bro, can these people do anything but gaslight? Echoing the Trump administration's repeated belief that tariffs will be paid not by American consumers, but by businesses in other countries or the countries themselves. The message is that tariffs are tax cuts, tariffs are jobs, tariffs are national security, Navarro said on Fox News Sunday. Tariffs are great for America. They will make America great again. But most economists say U.S. imposed tariffs are paid by American businesses and consumers in the form of higher prices on imported goods, not paid by foreigners. Trump's plans to announce additional tariffs on Wednesday, which he dubbed as Liberation Day, on all manner of imported goods as retaliation for what he sees as unfair barriers to U.S. exports to other countries. Trump has already announced tariffs on all goods from China, Mexico, and Canada, and this week a 25% tariff on all imported cars is set to take effect. Oh boy. By the way, like, even our American-made cars, they use car parts, a lot of imported car parts from like Mexico or Canada. So those are your American-made cars are probably going to go up in prices too. Just so you know. And like I'm all for bringing back American manufacturing. Don't get me wrong. But I prefer the approach that Joe Biden was taking through the Tariffs Act, for example, incentivizing and providing grants, subsidies, etc. for moving production here. And it worked. You can go look it up. Go research the Tariffs Act. Don't listen to what Donald Trump tells you about it. So you can't just like, putting a 25% tariff or any tariff on a good just doesn't magically like spawn 20 factories that are going to start pumping out that product in America. Building factories, hiring the workforce, getting all this moved over in general, it's going to take years. So you're talking years of elevated prices that are primarily going to be paid by the lower and middle class Americans. That's two classes obviously already hurt and weakened and slowly disappearing by the day. It's not clear how Navarro calculated this $700 billion annual figure, since the deals of these tariffs have yet to be fully disclosed. It's also not clear, and perhaps unlikely, that Americans will continue to buy as many imported goods if prices are hiked due to the cost of the tariffs. To reach Navarro's estimate, it would take a 25% tariff on virtually all $3.3 trillion in goods imported by U.S. businesses and consumers in 2024. And that's not going to happen. Canadian energy imports will be hit with a 10% tariff, not 25%, and Canada is the largest source of the nation's petroleum imports. Chinese goods mostly will have a 20% tariff. In addition, Trump has said not all goods would be hit by tariffs, only goods from countries that have what the administration considers to have unfair trade policies towards the United States. This guy has no idea how tariffs work. You don't use tariffs like this because they've been trading unfairly with us. You use tariffs strategically to incentivize buying American products over foreign goods. Granted, we produce that product. Like I said, putting these tariffs just doesn't make dozens of factories spawn overnight just pumping out whatever we're putting a tariff on. Oh man, what's more, Trump's on again, off again approach to tariffs so far means the effective rate may not be able to bring in $700 billion. Regardless, timeframes for levying them may be delayed, and some countries may reach deals with the Trump administration to eliminate tariffs, for example. Plus, the $6 trillion figure implies that Americans wouldn't change their purchasing behavior. That's exactly what the tariffs are intended to do: get consumers to buy American and get foreign and multinational businesses to ship production to new U.S. factories. So at a stage, it's simply not possible to know exactly how much revenue America will bring in from tariffs. Not even if Navarro's proposed figure is hugely inflated, the cost of tariffs on a dollar basis is still likely to represent a huge tax increase unlike anything seen in U.S. history. Navarro's predictions in context: on a percentage basis, the 1942 tax bill that raised money to fight World War II is the largest tax increase in U.S. history, according to a 2006 analysis by the Treasury Department. That raised $10 billion a year in 1942, or $200 billion today when adjusted for inflation. However, at the time, that tax increase was a much larger share of the nation's gross domestic product. The broad measure of the nation's economic activity equaled about 5% of 1942's GDP, according to the Treasury Department's analysis. Today, $600 billion would be only about 2% of the current GDP. On a dollar basis, the largest previous increase not adjusted for inflation is the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. The ACA was passed in 2009 and at the time was projected to raise tax revenue by $486 billion. But that was over a 10-year period, less than a decade than Navarro is predicting Trump's tariffs will raise in 1 year. What's more, one of these increases in taxes under the ACA, a penalty on those Americans who didn't get health insurance, was later repealed by Congress, reducing the tax impact of that law. Critics of the Trump administration's tariff plans say they will create tremendous cost increase for American consumers and will be a drag on the economy. That is a tax, said Senator Mark Warner in an interview on Fox immediately after Navarro's appearance. That money doesn't come falling out of the sky. That money comes because the price of these products will go up. Americans will pay more. We're talking a $700 billion tax, he said, adding the $100 billion that Navarro says auto-specific tariffs will raise in the first year. It insults the intelligence of the American people when he's saying the government is going to collect $700 billion a year, he said. And somehow that's not going to show up in the cost. $100 billion with the auto tariffs alone. The auto industry has been a major focus for the Trump administration in its strategy to increase tariffs. We're going to raise about $100 billion with the auto tariffs alone, Navarro predicted Sunday. In addition to the 25% on all imported cars announced last week and scheduled to take effect this week, Trump has said he plans to impose additional tariffs on imported auto parts, which are used in every car built at a U.S. assembly plant. Navarro said that the administration then plans to provide tax credits to people who buy American cars. He did not specify what car purchases would qualify for such a tax credit. No car built at a U.S. auto assembly plant is made with only American parts. Most depend on imported parts for more than half of their content. Although Navarro says those levies will force automakers to shift production to U.S. plants and create jobs here, experts and auto industry executives say the change would take years to accomplish, almost like what I was saying, if it happens at all. In the meantime, U.S. auto jobs could be lost. So yeah, you're looking at a very potentially devastating, Liberation Day is going to be devastating if it is shaping up how it's going to be with all these tariffs. It's just, I don't even know how to put it into words. Like, this isn't even, okay, let's say prices aren't going to go up. Let's say the government makes all this money. U.S. government is making hundreds and hundreds of billions from these great tariffs. You think, as the average American, you're going to see any of that money? You think they're going to turn around and use that money to fund, like, universal health care? Like a complete overhaul of our infrastructure, or subsidies or some sort of program to actually get the federal minimum wage to a living wage. You think it's going to be any of that? No. It's just going to go to probably exclusively paying for the tax cuts, extending the Trump tax cuts from 2017, I believe. And we already went over the numbers. You can go look them up yourself. The amount, yeah, you'll get a little tax cut. We're talking like $1,800 a year, maybe. And that's not going to be new. That's just an extension what happened, in his first term. So you're not even going to notice any different. Like, most of the money from all of this is from cutting taxes on the rich. Go look at the numbers. Just go look at the numbers. We could avoid all of this, all of these tariffs, all these inflationary actions if we just raised taxes on the rich. Like, what are we doing? But no, Donald Trump is rich. He is a billionaire. Everyone in his administration is rich. His right-hand man, Elon Musk, is the richest person in the world. Like, how is no one making this connection to who they're serving and who they're not serving? Like, it's doing my head in, man. Like, oh, God. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And I will see you, I believe, tomorrow on Liberation Day. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.